Y'all, I'm back and I am ready to share where I've been, not just the last year, but why the last 5 years of ultra running have led me to burnout in almost every aspect of my life. Welcome to Biz Vibe. I'm Vivian Camille, or Coach Viv. If you're new here, I'm currently in the process of slowing down, stopping. Man, y'all, I've been tired. So that I can run fast towards joy, peace, and contentment in running and racing. Let's jump in because I've got a lot of ground to cover and so much to fill you in on. So, you've got overtraining, you've got acute fatigue, functional overreaching, red S, and then there's just good old burnout. I may have touched some of the others in the past 5 years of training, but everything eventually led me to burnout, which for me looked like a 5-year injury that would resurface at the worst possible time, usually race day, if you followed me on Instagram. I felt like running was a chore. Every run feeling lethargic and heavy, getting out the door was a mind game, and I'd have to trick myself into it. Now, through peak weeks of training, that's totally normal, but when months go by and run after run feels like crap, this is usually a good time to reassess and take inventory. The tricky thing here is that I thought everything was all good. And when it came to training, I was doing the right thing. But 100K training on top of everything else that I had committed myself to led me to staring straight down the barrel of the burnout gun. The gun eventually went off, and little by little, I lost the desire to run entirely. At the end of this video, I talk about the biggest shift I found, so stick around. It won't all be doom and gloom, but be warned, it's about to get dark. I love running. It has been a place of freedom and joy, community, and where I've experienced some of the deepest appreciation for life itself, and I still love it. But man, have I had to do a complete overhaul of not just my training, but my whole darn life. This all began long ago in a place far, far away. Not really. It was probably middle school, and Texas isn't that far. However, I played every sport the school had to offer. I was in every club and was on a mission to get straight A's. Since then, I have been in a rush to hurry and live life to the fullest, not wasting a thing. That includes time, money, and energy. This is a great thing to not waste, but not when it turns your life into a perpetual state of chaos, living out of a suitcase, never feeling grounded, never being home, and not prioritizing your well-being. Up until recently, I believed the most important thing was to experience life, no matter the cost. It could cost me my health, it could cost me my peace of mind, my relationships, my finances. As long as I was packing in the most week after week, I was living right. I was maximizing, optimizing, not wasting. Now, I'm gonna paint a picture of the last 5 years of training I've put in, how hectic, unhealthy, and crazy it was, and how I thought it was all normal, that it was all fine, that was good, that I was doing it right. To give myself some credit, I have had glimpses into peace and stillness. I observed rest days, I wasn't overtraining, I took breaks when I needed to, I let go of my identity as a runner back in high school, but that's a whole different video. The training and mindset were honestly pretty alright. However, it was the environment I'd created around training that created so much unrest, screwy values, and unhealthy striving. It was the ultra mindset applied not just to running, but every aspect of my life that led to burnout. These few years, I've been an adult, making my own decisions. For those of you who don't know, I'm not in middle school anymore. My wrinkle speaks the truth. Yet, I was perpetuating this cycle of doing for the sake of doing, often unconsciously, that led me to absolute burnout. Y'all, I'm still in my 20s. There is no reason for burnout to be happening right now. Taking 10 months off running changed my life, my training, and subsequently will change the scope of this channel moving forward. As I move forward with my new approach to life and training, I want to paint a picture and give an account of what the last 5 years look like and why I now have what I call the 5-year wrinkle, which will forever remind me of what not to do. If this sounds like you, maybe you'll want to join me in slowing down, stopping, taking inventory of life as I log it in the videos to come. I know what hectic chaos, depression, and darkness feel like all at once for years on end. Again, sounds dark, but we'll get into it. Having this all written out sounds like doom and gloom, but know that in the midst of this crazy, I have had so many highs, so many great memories. You can have great memories, make wonderful connections, build community, have rest here and there, and still be chronically out of alignment, drained, and burned out by the fast pace of modern life. I accepted that just as like, that's life. But it doesn't have to be that way. And this may sound like one long video of complaining, and to be honest, it has been one big sufferfest, first world edition. This is not a third world, no water situation. I just want to provide some perspective here. This is me stopping, catching years of being out of alignment, calling it out, and adjusting as we move forward in this channel. Now, the ultra running community draws a special type of person. We all know this type because, well, if you're here, you probably embody it and live it every day, like I have. I find that ultra runners don't just ultra run, they ultra everything. And I am guilty of this to the max. In some ways, I love that about myself. I strive for excellence in everything I do, and it's helped me build a beautiful life. But when my definition of excellence means my expectations are way out of reach, and when I fall short of those, I take it as a direct hit on my identity and allow Drill Sergeant Viv to come out and tear me down, that's massively debilitating. All right, with all of that, the long-awaited 5-year wrinkle story. It all starts in Peru. I lived there for a while, and during my stay, I picked up a gnarly with a capital G parasite that destroyed my gut barrier. So I couldn't eat a long list of foods. Because of this, I'd have to meal prep and couldn't just eat store-bought anything. Anything convenient, I most likely couldn't eat. And if I did, the level of fatigue, depression, and pain was ruthless. We are talking about fatigue that made it so hard, I could barely think. So, getting out of bed, commuting 1,000 miles to Denver to start my new job as a flight attendant, smiling, making announcements in front of hundreds of people was way more than a chore. I love my job now, especially now that I have some seniority, but when you're the lowest man on the totem pole, you sit 24-hour call shifts, have little flexibility in your schedule, and you don't make much money. Again, things are looking up, but the last 3 years have been hell. And I take responsibility for part of it because part of it was my own doing. Not too many flight attendants work full-time, train full-time with the dream of being an elite ultra runner, much less all the other crap I'd committed myself to. At year 3, I was finally based in Phoenix. Phoenix is super senior, so now again, I was the lowest man on the totem pole. I would wake up at midnight after 3 to 4 hours of sleep, since I had to pack 3 to 6 full days of food, drive 2 hours to Phoenix, and then work anywhere from a 7 to 14 hour day, depending on delays. In that workday, I was on my feet and heels, interacting with hundreds of people, and then going to sleep for 6 to 7 hours, depending on how long the overnight was. In a different state, in a different bed, eating my microwaved food that I prepped before I left. On the 1 or 2 days I was home in the week, a new home, in a new state, mind you, I would reach out to friends to run with. Fit in my long run whenever it worked for my friends, work on renovating our 1970s home to my HGTV standards. Again, ultra everything. Then try and get a YouTube video made. A video would take anywhere from 10 to 15 hours to edit. I know, silly. You'd think that kind of time you'd be getting Billy Yang quality. Wrong. All the while, I was trying to maintain 50 to 100K training, building a running community on the west side of Tucson that was women focused and and prove that I could be the best wife on the planet to my loving husband. And if I wasn't working, I was traveling to visit my family, race in different places, spend time with longtime friends in Texas, being there for friends, and getting to know my husband's family, who also don't live in Arizona. Again, it's my choice to live in Arizona. In the beginning of my career as a flight attendant, I wasn't based in Phoenix, so I would have to fly to Denver, LA, Oakland, or Houston to start my 3-day trips. At one point, I think I was home 3 days and 3 months because of how packed in I had everything. I would pack for 9 days at a time or have to meal prep for a month and hope it was enough to get me through, because God forbid the tiniest bit of corn would slip into my meal that I didn't prep. Within 24 hours, to paint a picture, that tiny piece of corn would send me into a spiral of dark depression. I didn't want to live, I didn't want to run, to do anything really for that matter. All I could do was be angry at the world and myself, who I hated in those moments. I couldn't really enjoy anything. And the fatigue that went with that was demoralizing. One work trip I flew, I got delayed, then stranded in Las Vegas for 24 hours. I slept 20 straight hours of that overnight. In 2021, the day after Black Canyon 100K half walkathon, I planned my wedding. That was during the COVID regulations, which added a lot of additional logistics and stress to the process. I married the love of my life and love him to pieces. I'm overjoyed and understand how immensely blessed I am to have him through all of this. It's truly a wonder that he stuck around. But yeah, so I planned a wedding somewhere in there. The following year, I got long COVID for a solid month, like laying in bed for the whole month. And once I recovered from that, I was sick almost every other week for the rest of the year as I tried to crawl my way back to training. I remember racing Speedgoat 28K and I could barely breathe with the altitude. I was forcing everything I did. Almost every run felt like crap. And this is ultra running. It's not always gonna feel good, but when run after run for months on end are sucky, there's something going on. And that something going on was long COVID. Update on the gut lining. Yeah, that was still causing a whole lot of mental distress, still not fixed. And now I had this vicious lung issue from COVID to deal with. Seeing doctors was dang near another full-time job for me. I would have to research for hours someone who could figure out why my joint issues were happening, my gut problems, why I was having heart palpitations, why half my body would go numb, why no matter how much I slept or I tried to squeeze in, like I never felt rested. Scheduling the actual appointments was also a total nightmare with my work schedule. The whole process added to the exhaustion and took up so much time. At this point, you're probably hardcore judging me, and honestly, I don't blame you. You're probably like, dude, chill out. Of course your body is retaliating. You're doing too much. Just stop, slow down, prioritize your health. Joke's on me, because that's where the lovely Instagram comes in, okay? Maybe I would have stopped and realized how ridiculous things were, but I only follow runners. And I'm seeing everyone else with their kids, their nursing job, training for 100 milers, not even 100Ks, winning 100 milers, being sponsored athletes who are nurses, lawyers, thinking, well, why can't I have a life and train too? Surely they have more on their plate than me. They're perfectly healthy and training and sponsored. Meanwhile, I've got this knee pain that never seems to go away. My lungs are working at half capacity, never seeming to heal. Side note, the idea of everyone out there has this full-time job and training full-time is not always what it seems. Again, that's gonna have to be a whole separate video. But anyways, my knees, being a mess meant more PT, more appointments, chiropractors, acupuncturists, orthopedic surgeons, MRIs, x-rays. I feel like I've tried everything. And then in September of last year, when the beginning of this 10-month off running started, things just started to slip, and that included YouTube. I haven't been here in a while, and I ended up channeling a lot of that energy instead into getting certified as a coach and pouring my heart and soul into building that business. That's where I wanted to put a lot of my energy for a long time, but I'd not had time or energy, so YouTube had to give. Then running began to slip. I started feeling resentful of all the time I put towards running to show up on race day and my legs to fail me. It really started with the Pikes Peaks Marathon. I'd focused on making that a fun race, and somehow in my head that meant like lessening my training. I ran it instead of raced it, and the race and the weekend itself was fun, but the days following I really didn't like how it felt, because though I'd given it my best on race day, I knew it wasn't the best I had to offer because I hadn't put the training in leading up into that race. I got to a point where running just to run wasn't an option. Part of that was because the environment I'd created. I was living in this scarcity mindset because I never knew if I'd be delayed until 3 a.m. to then have to drive 2 hours home when I was supposed to be home in time to fit in my run. All of my runs had to be efficient and optimized if I was going to have a chance at training with my schedule. When I did have moments of rest, like taking the van to train in Utah, traveling to Turkey, being at the beach house, or going hunting with my dad, I'd feel like I should be working. And then when I was at work, I felt like I should be racing or training somewhere else. Anytime I would rest, I would feel guilty about it. Anytime I had free time to just be, I would feel like I should be getting a YouTube video made, or working on the house project, or cleaning up the house, or coaching, or helping a friend move. The rest I did have was not restful at all. This here, folks, is a problem of affluence, a problem of opportunity, of choice, and of the freedom to commit to so many things. And I just have to say that because I'm overwhelmed by how much blessing and goodness is in my life. I've probably lived 5 lifetimes in the short 27 years that I've been on this earth. So I promise this isn't to make you feel sorry for me or to complain. There are so many other aspects that I'm leaving out here because you get the picture, and no words will capture what the chaos of it all has felt like. And that's okay. But it's It's important for me to speak it out loud and to take ownership of the choices I made that led me to burnout. When I first spoke all of this out loud, I immediately knew it was way too much. Like, this wasn't normal. This was no way to live. I'd been to northern Spain, Chamonix, Turkey, Alaska twice in 1 year, all over the US, had a rich life of friends, community, a business, a YouTube channel, loved ones, a beautiful house to live in, and even an incredible running race resume with some standout performances despite a horrible training and wacko sleep schedule. The crazy thing is, I was almost dreading some of these adventures because I was so depleted. I couldn't enjoy any of it fully because I was so freaking exhausted and overworked. Sure, again, I had so many glimpses of what peace felt like, what it felt like to train well for 100K. My lead up to the 2021 Black Canyon 100K was one of those times. I was able to take a month off to devote to consistent sleep and training. But even that added stress because the pressure of selling trips and reorganizing my whole life around running for 1 month, it felt like it was my only shot that I'd ever have to make it in the elite field. Again, living out of a place of fear and scarcity. Not great. The thing about the ultra mindset is that it's ultra. There is little balance with it. That's why there are so few of us, and I'll be honest, I get a lot of pride from being the 0.00001 whatever percent in the world that engages in this sport. But what I've experienced myself and seen in my athletes time and time again is that ultra is a mindset and it bleeds into life too. For me, if I needed to landscape our yard, it meant spending day after day, 6 hours at a time in the summer heat moving dirt. If I was going to be home, then my house was going to be clean, decluttered, and as organized as darn Marie Kondo's. Being a wife, friend, daughter, sister, I needed to stay in touch every week, be around for family reunions, birthdays, baby showers, in different states, constantly traveling to be there. If you ask my running friends of the reoccurring conversations we have, it's usually about seeking peace and being better runners by mastering the mind. But it wasn't until I took 10 months off ultra running and let life slow down, let my body find peace and stillness, that I was able to turn off some of the ultra mindset and focus on the glimpses of calm and peacefulness that I had seen, so I could cultivate more of them, and so they wouldn't just be glimpses, but they'd become my whole life, and I could operate out of that place. For me, just recounting all this has raised my heart rate and makes me instantly a bit more stressed just thinking about that. It's a small shift, but I immediately feel prone to hop back into survival mode. It's this energy that makes me feel out of control, depleted in a lot of ways, mind, body, and spirit. But now that I've taken time off and quieted my environment some, I'm able to read that energy in me, stop, and seek out something that feels calmer and less frantic. It wasn't until I stepped back and completely stopped that I was able to not just see glimpses into peace, but to create a calm, rested, and strong foundation to operate out of. In my next video, I'm talking about the 10 things I learned in my 10 months off that have built that strong foundation and shifted my energy from frantic to composed. It's dramatically changed everything, especially my training for the better. For those of you who are still here, thank you for watching. Happy trails. See you next time.